These my Dallas make it hurt.
Hello and welcome. It's the Deep Cover Podcast. Thank you as always for tuning in, whether you're listening in audio format or you're watching the video. Appreciate everybody. Joined by my guys, Kerry Stevenson, Chris Aguilera, fresh off an exciting Sunday night football game. Ravens take down the Kansas City Chiefs 36-35 in an instant classic, just from a football game perspective, let alone if you're Ravens fans like we are. Of course, it was awesome for us, but just like as a football fan, just an instant classic kind of game, just back and forth, scoring all up and down the field, big plays on defense at the end, or well, throughout really on both sides of the ball, but at the end for the Ravens. So just a lot to talk about, a lot to kind of look back on. Before we get into all of that, let me just touch base with each of the guys. I'll start with you, Kerry. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Relieved that we're back together in a happy, momentous occasion. We've been doing a lot of trying to persevere through injuries and different things like that. So, it's good to, be on the winning side of things.
Absolutely. I mean, what a difference a week can make, right? From the Monday night game in week one and the craziness with how that ended to this game and the exciting way that it ended. Chris, I know you had the candle. You saw it on Twitter. Obviously, it came through. How you doing?
Still got it with me. I'm not turning this thing out for the rest of the year. But no, I got a little extra pep in my step, after that big win, because like you said, Mike, we were kind of somber last week, and we weren't really looking forward to this Kansas City game. Not that we were giving up, but we were preparing for the worst. But I'm glad, we can come in and have some smiles on our face and be victorious.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it just, it was one of those just classic NFL kind of situations where going into it, it looks like the deck is stacked against one side. You get two very good teams. They've been going at it with each other over the last couple of years. The games have been, generally they've all been good games. I guess the one last year got away from the Ravens a little bit, even though they kind of tried to get it close there towards the end. But generally, they've really come down to the wire and been good games. And going into this one, like you guys both said, with the injuries, to the Ravens. I forget how many guys are on IR now, 15 or 14 or something like that. Um, it just kind of looked like the deck was sort of stacked against them. But true NFL fashion, these are the kinds of games you get in those situations where it looks like, hey, it might not be as close a game as it's been in the past between these two teams for whatever that reason is. Then it turns out to be just a great game, and the team who maybe you thought didn't have as good a chance as they would normally have is the one who comes out with the victory. So NFL is crazy, man, how it does that throughout the season, which is different games where everybody's kind of on one side of something, or most people are on one side of something, and then it's the other thing um, that happens. So hey, and this time we were as Ravens fans, we were on the good end of it. So we'll take that for sure. But let's talk about it. Let's get into the game a little bit. I was thinking what we could do, and then of course you guys can jump in with whatever you want to do as well. Is that we could just look at both sides of the ball and maybe take just kind of do a round, maybe two rounds if we have that many players we want to talk about, but maybe mention a player or two or a play or two or a situation, whatever you want, but just something from each side of the ball that really kind of stood out to you or was something you really remember from the game. So um, I'll start with you, Chris. Well, let's go offense first. Anything on that side of the ball, whether it was a play or a player, a situation that kind of that you still remember.
Well, you know where I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Makari at right tackle Hive because I've been, talking about it since the summertime. I felt like this guy I felt like he was a tackle. And, in the preseason, we saw him just get bulldozed by guys when he was playing guard. And it was not pretty, and you could tell it's like that. That's not his natural spot. He doesn't have the strength to hold up there. But on the outside of right tackle, he pretty much solidified that right side for the team with him and Zeitler over there. So I thought he played well, and hopefully this is a sign of things to come. And let's pray we don't have more of those Monday night performances that we saw from Villanueva on that right side, because we see when Lamar can trust his line, we see what he can do. And on Sunday night, he had full trust of that line, and the once he has that, he has the confidence to take his game to a higher level.
Yeah, that brings you back to 2019, right? When he had
Yep.
continuity on the offensive line, and guys really kind of locked in and playing well. We saw what kind of show he and this offense can put on. And last night again, we talked about how it was such a difference from the Monday night game to in week one to the past Sunday night's game. That was another big area of difference, right? Remember all of the pressure, and whether you are into PFF or Sports Information Solutions, whatever kind of charting grading service you're in, any of that stuff, um, the pressure numbers were like flipped, right? Ravens offense was under pressure, I think like 50% of the time in that week one game. And then I don't know if they had more than maybe two or three pressures that they allowed on offense in this game. And I'm not saying they were on the O line. I think I even saw somewhere that they were on running back. I'm going to stay away from that because I know that's a whole another rabbit hole talking about who's responsible, who's not responsible. But anybody watching the game could see that it was just a totally different environment on offense in terms of the offensive line and the time that Lamar had when he was dropping back. So kudos to them, man. I mean,
Yeah,
as
for
great as he
sure.
was, as great as some of the other guys on offense were, we'll probably touch on some of them. None of it happens without those guys up front playing the way that they did.
Yeah,
And they were amazing. Even Big Country, even Ben Cleveland got in there for some snaps.
yeah.
Right?
Looking like Taxi Driver. You saw him with the mohawk.
He was locked in. He was locked in for it. So even he got in and got some run. Kerry, let me go to you. Still staying on the offensive side of the ball. Um, what was it for you? Play, a player, a situation? What do you remember?
Yeah, I'm glad Chris hit on Makari because I was definitely going to hit on Makari and give him props. If people remember when we did the 53 man prediction, um, we were kind of going back and forth with that offensive line, the backup offensive line, and Chris viewed Makari as a tackle, and they kind of changed his outlook on the backup position. And he talked about it then, how the guy moved like a tackle, looked like a tackle, and you saw it come to fruition in this game. I mean, for him to hold up in pass protection against those cats, the guys that he had to go up against to hold up in pass protection against those guys, and then to move the way he moved in the running game, just being able to fit, being able to, get outside of the tackle box and do some things, and and move bodies in the run game, with quickness, with movement. I thought that was huge. So, again, shout out to Chris being that fortune teller, seeing that before anybody else would see it. Because I mean, who would think a guy that's a backup center, undersized backup center, would be able to come in and like stabilize a right tackle position. And to me, man, he's got to be the right tackle the rest of the season. I mean, you don't play that well against that level of competition, and you don't put that back on the bench. I'm sorry, you can't.
Yeah, and I don't like. It's not like he was going up against a bum. He was going up against Chris Jones a lot of the night,
Right.
who is one of the highest paid defensive players in the league, and deservedly so. And he was holding his own against Chris Jones. So
Yeah.
it's one thing if he's doing it against, Joe Schmo, but that got called up from the practice squad. But to do it up against a high level player like that was pretty impressive. You on mute, Mike?
There you go. My bad. I was gonna say Carrie hit on a juicy topic, and we don't have to get into it tonight because it's for another time. Uh, it's not a problem they have to deal with right now. But if you keep McCurry at right tackle, and when Ronnie Stanley comes back and is healthy, both physically and mentally, and is ready to go, what do you do with Alejandro Villanueva at that point? Like I said, that's a topic for another time. Not a problem they got to deal with right now, but that is going to be a decision that's going to have to be made when they cross that bridge. For me, and we can see if we want to do another round. I'll throw my guy out. If you guys want to touch on anybody else, we can do another round. For me, it's got to be Lamar. I mean that obviously goes without saying. I was it was between Lamar and Hollywood. I wanted to talk about both of them, but I'll go with Lamar just because I think what we saw is that aggressive attacking, you know, foot on the gas pedal, no brake the entire time, Lamar Jackson, because it didn't matter what was happening, right? Mistakes, throw a pick six, your receiver slips down and is not where you expect him to be when you let the ball go, and that turns into a pick six. All right, cool. Get the ball back. Let's go down the field and score. Um, throw another interception later in the game, probably a little bit of a um, forced throw on his part. But again, they were down in the red zone. He's trying to make a play. Hey, cool. We'll get the ball back. We'll go score again. It just didn't matter. It didn't matter. When he and the offense had the ball, they were going up and down the field, and everything was on display. Everything that I think makes him who he is and one of the most exciting and most dynamic quarterbacks in the league was on display last night, whether it was running the ball, whether it was throwing the ball, um, the leadership, hey, you want to go for it, Lamar? Hell yeah, let's go, coach. I mean, everything was on display. So, I think you guys hit it early when he has the support around. And that's the thing that I think we always have to remember about this is it's a team game. I mean, it goes without saying, but sometimes people forget about it, and it's easy to get focused on individual players because of how good they are. But it's a team game, and so when he has the offensive line, when he has targets to throw the ball to, when he has, and I know people will say they're down to their third string running back and they're signing guys off the street, so the running backs don't matter. Again, not getting into that. That's for another. When he has talent around him, uh, he's just going to take that talent and maximize it. Right? He's going to get the most out of everybody around him. He's going to lift everybody around him, in addition to his own individual play, which is spectacular. So, I mean, he just was everything that you wanted him to be in that game. So, and I was happy. Obviously, everybody was happy for him to get that win because look, you're going to lose, and you're going to lose games, and sometimes there's going to be a certain team who it's almost like they got your number. I mean, he said it himself. It kind of been their kryptonite just because they've been losing to him. But that happens. You can look at great players in any sport, and what for Jordan back in the day it was the Pistons, right? The old school bad boys. Everybody kind of has that until they don't, right? Until you win that game and you break through.
Yeah.
So I think we all knew that it was going to happen for him. We probably didn't necessarily think this was the game where it was going to happen, but what better scenario? What better scenario for it to happen in when it looked like it was unlikely, and then for them to do it. So, Kerry, I'll go back to you. Do you get anybody else on the offensive side of the ball you want to talk about? We can do another round on offense, or we can go to defense.
Yeah, for me on offense, it's just the offense as a whole. And I see like a major eruption coming for this offense at some point this season. And that's kind of crazy to think, considering they've scored 63 points already this season. But when you think about it, you got Rashad Bateman coming back at some point. And I'm looking at those bunch formations that they're having success out of, throwing the football, adding him to that mix. At some point, Ronnie Stanley is going to be back at left tackle, and he'll be healthier than he was, week one. Nick Boyle at some point, they're going to get him back. He's going to be on that line of scrimmage, sealing things off in the running game, helping in the pass protection. And all of a sudden, these runs that have been like close to getting broken off, might get broken off if you have a guy like Boyle in there, moving some people around. So I look at all these things. I look at an offense that's continuing to kind of, build cohesion together. And I like the direction that they're going. I think they have a real chance by the end of the season to be looked at in the same likeness as the Chiefs and the Bucks and these teams. I mean, really, they're already in that stratosphere, but people don't really look at it the same because you have a quarterback leading this team that's the centerpiece of the run game. And so because he's not out there throwing for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, but he's still accounting for 4 touchdowns, people don't view it the same. But I think with some of the things they're doing, with some of the weapons they have, once they kind of get everything ramped up and they get everybody back, I think by the end of the year you could look at this team and you view them in the same light as you view a Chiefs or Bucks or one of those offenses.
Yeah, the thing that we know he's done consistently since he's really become the full time starter at quarterback is lead this offense to points. They score points, and you can talk about how it looks, whether it's on the ground as opposed to in the air, and people can talk about being last in passing yards. You can talk about all of that, and you can have all of that. But at the end of the day, you look at points scored and you look at wins, and that's what he and this team has done on offense. They score points and they win games. Um, in the regular season, I mean, I forget what his record is now, but I know coming into this year it was like 37 or something like that. So we've talked about it a bunch just amongst our small little group, but their thing is all about scoring and all about efficiency, right? It doesn't have to be about putting up 300-yard passing games or 400-yard passing games or whatever. And that's not to say that he doesn't have that in him. I think that if their offense maybe had a little bit of a different philosophy, you could probably see that, and you might even see it within this offense. It just depends on the individual game, but to me, it doesn't matter, right? I just want to see them score points and win games. I don't really care how you do it, because at the end of the day, there are no pitchers in the standings. They don't draw pictures, right? It's just
Yep.
numbers, and it's wins and it's losses. I'll come back to you, Chris. Anybody else on offense you want to touch on?
I want to piggyback real quick on both of you for Lamar and just what Kerry said about the total offense, because we've seen this team where they struggle, specifically Lamar struggle early on in these big, pressure games and these pressure moments, and they kind of just unravel, and it doesn't really start clicking until the second half for them. But we didn't see Lamar or that bench get down. We saw the pick six, and then there was another situation where he throws the interception in the red zone, and usually we'll see them kind of get down on themselves.
Oh, I think we lost
Oh,
Chris.
we lost Chris.
I think he's probably going to jump back in real soon, but for the time being, yes, we have lost him here. Let's do this. Oh, we'll switch to the two man until we get him back. I'm sure he'll be back briefly. Um, he was just continuing that theme that you were talking about with the total offense, and how sometimes in some of these other big games, you can particularly think about the playoff games where it seems like they've had some adversity and they just haven't been able to overcome it. Like it happens, and it's almost like they can't put it behind them and kind of get back going again. It almost kind of snowballs on them until later in the game, right? Later, kind of third quarter, fourth quarter, some of these games. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way against the Bills because Lamar got hurt. But even 2019 against the Titans, start moving the ball a little bit, but just not able to get it in the end zone. What we saw last night was the opposite. Had that adversity very early on, but we're still able to move the ball. We're still able to score points, and it was like no matter what happened from an adversity standpoint, they didn't get into a hole where they couldn't get themselves out.
Yeah. And I'm just really happy for these group of guys, man, because when you look at it, they've done so many things right. from the team, from the front office, from the coaching staff. They've done a lot of things right. They've won a lot of games. And if they would have lost this one game, all of that would have went out of the window, and it would have just been about, hey, they can't win the big one. They can't get over the hump. They can't do this. They can't do that. So that's got to wear on you. So, for them to be able to pull a win like this out, especially with all the adversity, they've faced the adversity of 2 or 3 teams in the last month. you know, 15 guys on IR. The coach is taking it hard. He's like, man, I was just trying to get these guys some reps together. That kind of stuff. And I mean, we're not even in October, so for them to go through that, I was just glad to see them just have something good happen. You know what I mean? Just have something go their way early on.
Yeah, because you said it. You put in all of that work. You build this team. You try to do things the right way. Let these guys be themselves. From a coaching standpoint, and just have kind of struggled in some of these prime time, sort of big time games. But like you, I'm happy. I'm happy that it was able to kind of all click
Yeah,
for them last night. Because it does relieve some of that pressure. And look, it's a regular season game. It's a week 2 game. We got 15 more games to go. It wasn't a playoff game. I get all of that. But it still was an important game, in my
yeah,
opinion, even as early as it is in the season. Number one, it's against, um, a conference opponent and one who is going to be there at the end of the season. So it's important from that point, in terms of home field positioning and stuff like that, even as early as it is. I mean, sometimes these are the games that can decide that stuff towards the end of the season. When teams are close record wise, it can be this kind of game that can kind of help kind of sway home field advantage and those kinds of things later in the season. So it's an important game, regardless of
yeah.
fact that it's in week 2. Let's switch over the defense then. Hopefully we can get Chris back, but if not, hey, we'll carry on. And we'll get this thing in and get the content out to the people. For me on defense, there's a name that I think I could lead with, but I'm gonna save it because I know you or Chris when he gets back probably want to talk about this young man too. So I'm gonna save him. But one that was kind of a little bit, I think maybe under the radar one, and people may not necessarily have this as the first name that comes to mind for them on defense is Tavon Young. I'm gonna go with Tavon, and the reason that I do that is because if you think back to that Monday night football game, right, where he had the penalty, maybe had a couple other little snaps where he was in coverage and his man was kind of able to get the better of him. And even after that game, Wink talked about, because I think he got a question about it, is how did he look? And he's obviously missed a lot of football over the last year or so. He said, well, hey, look, you're not going to have him out there playing 60 or 70 snaps right off the bat.
Yeah,
Um, that's a lot to put on his plate because that is, the reality is because of his injury. He has missed a lot of football. But last night, ironically, because of injury, he did have to play a pretty significant snap load. They didn't have Jimmy Smith for that game. They didn't have Chris Westry, who they did have in week 1, but he wasn't able to go in that game. And so Tavon did end up having to play 78% of the snaps. Now only played 40. It wasn't a real high, snap count game for the defense like it was against the Raiders in week 1. I think the Raiders did 70 snaps, maybe 80 snaps. It was some high number of snaps.
yeah,
It was a lower overall snap count game for the defense, but still 78% of the snaps. And, he gets the interception there. I think that was in the fourth quarter where, you know, Mahomes is scrambling out of the pocket and Oweh kind of taking him down. Mahomes is trying to make that throw as he's going down and it's off target. And Tavon picks it off. So I was happy, man. I was happy for Tavon to show up in that kind of way in this kind of game because I think he's that kind of player. I think we think back to when he's been healthy and kind of plays he's made. He is that kind of player, right? And want him in these kind of
definitely.
games. But he just has had real bad luck with the injury bug. And there were a couple plays in the game where he might have been channeling his inner Marcus Peters, where he was trying to jump out, and it might work out. But at the end, towards the end of the game, when they needed a turnover, because they were in that situation a couple times there at the end where they needed a turnover to get the ball back. He was able to get one. So for me, it was Tavon. We got Chris back. We're doing defense now. Chris, I started with Tavon. I was telling Kerry a name that I know either one of you probably want to mention. I didn't lead with because I wanted you guys to be able to have an opportunity. Maybe you both talk about him, but a young man, very near and dear to our hearts. But it's up to you. It's up to you to pick who you want to talk about on defense. I'm not trying to steer you. So somebody on defense who stood out for you.
I'm gonna go with my man, Penn State, Odafe Oweh. I feel like he was the best player on the field, well, the best defensive player on the field that night. It's funny how, because I was pretty high on him, and my projection was not that he was going to be this good this early. I thought he'd be able to contribute on early downs and also mix in on these exotic packages, well, when it comes to third down. But I did not see him being the leader in snaps for the outside linebacker group at all. And not only is he leading them in snaps, he's backing it up with big time plays and big time moments too. Because in the Raider game, he almost had a big time play too against Derek Carr, and Carr was able to get it off in time. So we're seeing this in only week 2, and it's kind of like Lamar, where when Lamar was drafted, we knew he was going to sit behind Flacco, and then when he got thrusted into the starting lineup, he kind of just took over, and he was able to turn the Ravens into a playoff team that year. Obviously, with some help, he didn't do it single handedly, but he was the spark. And then in 2019, he's the damn MVP. So always kind of like on that same path in a way where we had high expectations for him, but we just didn't expect it to happen this early. And granted, it's only week 2, but I mean, it looks like the sky's the limit for as long as the season goes on and he stays healthy. It looks like the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, I wanted to give you credit for this on Twitter today, that you were really the primary person who said, hey, to me, and all three of us are into the draft and we love looking at prospects. You were really the primary person who said, hey, I know this name. We all kind of knew the name, but you were like, you need to really take another look at this guy because there's something there that could be really, really special. He's like, yeah, you were saying, hey, he's getting knocked by people because he didn't have the sacks, in his last year at Penn State or whatever. But like, you just look at from a physical standpoint what this guy brings to the table and the potential, right? Because he was then and he still kind of is now. Still, a lot of raw material there that can be refined, it can be improved. And we're seeing, how he's affecting games early on while still learning and kind of refining that raw material as it, kind of starts to really come together for him from a technique standpoint and just from an experience standpoint. Because it's different. It's different up at the NFL level. Kind of learning a new thing up there. A lot of new things. It's crazy what it could be when we're seeing, the kind of effect he's having now. You think, man, this guy really is just, a baby in terms of experience in the league.
Yeah.
It's crazy to imagine what it could be.
And it's crazy. It's crazy because how many rookies have we seen that they have to get a grasp of the system and they just sit down and they learn. They have to take their time. And this dude is leading the outside linebacker room in snaps in week 2, and it's like, damn, like this is nuts. Like this is just it's really blowing my mind because I did not expect this to happen so quickly.
Neither did I. I thought he was going to come. They were going to bring him along a little more gradually. I certainly didn't see the snap load that he's taken on, and maybe you say it's needed, in a lot of ways. But that's one of the rooms on the team, on the position groups, where they actually are relatively healthy. An outside linebacker.
Mhm.
But aside from Dalen Hayes, yeah, let me correct myself. Dalen Hayes, didn't go the last two games. Um,
And even so, like they have what they give Ferguson, one snap.
yeah, I think so.
So it's like, damn, like they're just putting all their trust in this young kid, and he's rising to the occasion.
He's rewarding them. He's rewarding them. That's for sure. We saw it in that game. Those two turnovers that the Ravens had there in the second half. He was directly involved. Really, the cause directly involved. Not even the right way of saying it. The cause of them, particularly that fumble. I mean, he literally took the ball away from Clyde Edwards and later. So,
And
uh,
he was almost the reason for another one, the one that Tavon almost caught on the sideline
yeah, yep.
on the third down, where he got to he had that delayed blitz when he got to Mahomes, and Mahomes tried to fit it in there, and Tavon couldn't grab it, but he was almost accountable for that one too.
Yeah. So man's in the backfield. He's jamming and rerouting Travis Kelsey. He's all over the place. He's chasing runs down from the backside. The guy's all over the place. It really is something special to watch, and we're just seeing very early stages of it.
And
Um,
what did Justin Houston say? He said that's who you create when you create a player on Madden.
yeah, I mean, we saw it. We saw it. I know one of the friends of the show, Coach Evans. He showed a clip of a rush where the ball was out. Mahomes actually got the ball out quick, but the rush against Orlando Brown, I mean, it didn't look real. I had to watch the clip a couple of times. So I was like, "There's no way that he moved that fast." You Coach Evans said he hit him with the Allen Iverson crossover. He absolutely hit him, but it was like he teleported because you almost didn't see the crossover move. You saw him go outside, and then he was inside. And it's almost like you couldn't see the move that got him inside. It was so fast. You're like, oh my goodness, this is this is really scary up here because everybody is not going to get the ball out like Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, one of, if not the best quarterback in the league, and he gets the ball out. Um, everybody's not Patrick Mahomes. Everybody they play is not going to be Patrick Mahomes. They're going to be guys that hold the ball, and that's going to be trouble against this team. Um, but anyway, Kerry, defense. Who did you have?
I think I might have passed my bad luck on to Kerry.
No, I'm here now. So
All
yeah,
right.
I'm going with Oweh as well, man. Like you guys know I like to make those basketball analogies, and Coach Evans made it easier for me to do this when he tweeted, Orlando Brown getting hit with that wop, that quick crossover. So when you look at the NBA and how it's a star driven league, and you see these teams that do well in the regular season, they share the ball, they don't turn it over, they play good defense, play hard, all those things. But they fall short in the playoffs when things kind of bog down. And, the Knicks from last year come to mind. And it comes to when you need to win at the highest levels. Sometimes all the scheme and all that stuff get thrown out of the window, and you just need a dude that can create a shot. And that's what Oweh is. Oweh can create his own shot. Like Wink has created shots for a lot of people over the years in this scheme, facilitating pressure, doing some of those things. Oweh can do that himself, and the dude has only played 2 games. And he still has a lot of refinement to do, a lot of things that need to be ironed out with his game. But it's pretty special, man, for this guy to be 2 games into his career, and you can already look at him and tell you don't need to help him. You don't need to scheme anything for him. He can just flat out beat his guy, and he can beat him with speed. He can beat him with power. However, and so that's that. When people are questioning the trade for Orlando Brown, to get that extra first round pick? Well, the extra first round pick is Odafe Oweh. You know, there's nothing else to question at this point. This is the guy that he can be what has eluded the Ravens. That 4-man pass rush that you want to see a little bit more juice from, to just be able to get off of the field with a 4-man rush and be able to play just basic coverage behind it or whatever you want to do. Here's a guy that legitimately can allow you to do that. You look at Tampa Bay, how well they played this Chiefs offense in the Super Bowl. Well, you look at their front four, JPP and those two guys in the middle, and Shaq Barrett. Those guys were able to just whip the Chiefs line, and so it gives you flexibility to do different things on the back end. Well, Oweh is going to be part of that, and Matabike, he he's growing. He could be another piece of that. These are the building blocks, the foundation for uh, a Ravens defense that you hope is going to be able to do that same thing.
Yeah, and I got another guy I want to mention, but before I do, you made it. You touched on a good point there about the trade for Orlando Brown and that pick becoming Odafe Oweh. You know what we didn't hear about this week that we heard about? We heard a lot about after, particularly after Ronnie went out. Is oh man, what about not taking a tackle in the draft? What about Ben Mason? What about hear any of that after this game?
Yeah,
Nobody was talking about any of that anymore. It's amazing how things can change when guys play well on the offensive line. When you have guys in your building, you have guys in your organization who are multifaceted, like Patrick McCarry, right? Who can play different positions, and you give them an opportunity because really you need them in this game to step in and play a position, and they play well. Right now, nobody's talking about that anymore. It's interesting how quickly that goes away. But anyway, the guy that I wanted to mention was Anthony Averett. Anthony Averett, who has had to kind of step in to a starting corner role this year with Marcus Peters going out before the first game, had another solid game. I mean, look, it's not always going to be perfect. They're going to give up some catches and things like that because look, that's life as a corner in the modern NFL with the passing attacks the way that they are with the quality of athletes at the wide receiver position. You know, it's going to be difficult to just shut guys out completely. But another solid game for Double A. Had a really clutch play in the fourth quarter there on a 3rd and 9, 1-on-1 versus the Cheetah, and got a PBU, or at least got his hand in the way where Tyreek wasn't able to make the catch. I think he actually got the PBU on the play, but just really nice play. And for me, I was really happy to see that for him because it was a really confident play,
Yeah.
and that's kind
yeah,
of been the thing for him with me is that all the ability in the world, you can see it, in terms of size, speed, everything that you want from kind of an outside corner. But it's just that little bit of, I don't want to say lack of confidence. I don't think he's not confident in his ability, but it's almost like having to see it on the field, having to do it on the field, kind of like, look, I can make that play, right? Not just, you know, kind of having the belief in your head, but having it actually happen on the field to go out and make those plays. And he made the play. So I think that
Against
can
that guy.
against that guy. Yeah. That guy, we know that guy. There's nobody who can run with that guy in the league. So to make that play in that spot, in that situation, like I said, we're not talking about just early in the game, some first down. It's 3rd and 9, fourth quarter. You need the ball back, and he makes that play. So I think that was big for him. Anybody else on defense? We're back around to you, Chris. Anybody else on defense you want to mention, or if we don't, if neither one of you want to mention a guy, of course, I got a special teams guy, but let me do another round.
Of course.
Of course.
No, I want to just because this is going to be my offensive guy before my laptop wanted to go against me. I want to talk about the coordinators because Giro he's still not getting the respect he deserves. It's about to be what, 3 years now, and like you said earlier, Mike, the offense's job is to put up points. And people could say, yeah, if he didn't have Lamar, he wouldn't be this, he wouldn't be that. But guess what? He does have Lamar, and he is putting up the points. So I don't want to hear it. Yeah, you're not gonna like every single series that he has. There's no fan base in the NFL that loves their every single series that their offensive coordinator calls, because there are Chiefs fans who complain about Andy Reid. And so it is, you're never gonna love what the offensive coordinator does every single time. But in totality of these last 3 years, this guy has done nothing but put up points and be the engineer of one of the best uh, uh, offenses in the National Football League. So I don't want to hear it about Giro anymore. And then Wink, man, Wink, I don't know if they tied him up. I don't know what happened, but I know it must have killed him not to be able to blitz as much as he wanted to. But props to him, because it was a great thing. And even Travis Kelce said it, where he expected them to man up a little bit more. He expected them to bring more pressure. And Wink went against the grain. And he was like, nope, not today. Not today. We're not going to do that. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think Mahomes was 4 for 4 against blitzes on Sunday night. So it was like, yeah, it was smart not to blitz that guy. And I think the touchdown to Byron Pringle, I think that was a blitz where Tavon came off the slot. So he burned us with one of those blitzes too. So major props to the coordinators, man, because they did a hell of a job.
Yeah, the Giro thing, you know how I feel about him. I've been a Giro apologist from the beginning. And it's just an unfair standard, right? For people, we know how great Lamar is. Uh, but it's just an unfair standard for people to say, well, if he didn't have Lamar, well, if Andy Reid didn't have Mahomes, if Bruce Arians didn't have Tom Brady, I mean, you could play that game with anybody. So I don't understand why with him it's like, well, no, the offense is only having success because he has Lamar. Well, do that with anybody. And Wink, yeah, man, very out of character, but those where that was what was necessary. And you know, I was seeing people tweet about that. How, oh, where is he? They haven't shown any shots of him on the sideline in the room somewhere. And then, you know, whenever one of those few blitzes did show, I could envision him like breaking out the room, like popping the lock, running out the room and blitz real quick, and then they have to like chase him down. But no, it was a necessary game plan uh, for this particular offense and this particular quarterback. And even with that game plan, it was still very difficult. I mean, they still put up 34 points. So it was it was one of those things where you're just kind of holding on, right, against that guy and this offense, and then needing to make some plays there at the end of the game. And the defense did. I think the last three offensive possessions for Kansas City, it was turnover, punt, turnover. So the defense showed up in a big way when they needed to. Kerry, did you have anybody else on defense? He's coming. I know he's still there. I can see him.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys both hit on the coordinators, because I think both of them really battled in this game. You know, taking the shots early with Mahomes and, going down on the score. And now Wink has to, step outside of his box, step outside of his comfort zone as far as calling those blitzes. And, he's got to keep those guys encouraged, because, when you look at it, they go down and they're like, okay, here we go again. It's up to the coaches to kind of, right that ship, calm everybody down and say, hey, we got this. This is what we need to do. But we can pull this off. So, hats off to Wink on that side of the ball. Greg Roman, I think the criticism of him has been unfair. I do think there are some things that he could have tweaked as far as some of the route combinations and different things. But I think you've seen him step up to the plate, and I see especially with those bunch sets and some of it's not too much different than last year, but there just seems to be a little bit more cohesion with them. Um, as far as what he's doing with Hollywood, I mean, he's using Hollywood to his strengths masterfully, through 2 games. I mean, every strength of Hollywood, he's leveraging it, in big time ways. I like the way he's using Sammy Watkins inside, and getting him matched up on nickel defenders, and he's just doing a good job. I mean, with Giro, I can't really find any faults as far as play calls. I mean, it just looks like a good balanced, run based offense, but he's finding ways to utilize play action. And I like the 2 bat sets with putting Latavius in there with Tyson as a nice little wrinkle, because Latavius can block as well. So I'm glad you guys brought up Greg Roman, because he's a guy that's never going to get any credit. So I think it's important to give these guys their flowers, man, when they deserve them. And you can definitely tell that both of these guys have been working.
Yeah, the thing I always say about Greg Roman in the passing game, obviously the run game kind of speaks for itself and how effective it's been. Beyond effective, historic. I think the key for them is to be able to throw it on their own terms. And I think that's when their passing game is really
Right.
at its peak, because they can kind of dictate who they want to throw it to, what they want to set up, what part of the field or what player they want to attack on defense. So when they can throw it on their own terms, I think their passing game has been very efficient, and that's kind of the key to their whole offense. So let me get my special teams guy in here before we got to get out of here. Uh, and it's probably not, might surprise some people, because you may say, wait a minute, that wasn't a great play. Look, Nick Moore, maybe the best hold we have ever seen on special teams, because if he doesn't hold that guy on that punt, that's a block punt, right? And they're back in their territory, and who knows where the ball goes? Do the Chiefs recover it? Is it a touchdown? We don't know. But if he doesn't hold that guy, John Harbaugh said it himself in the post-game presser. He's like, no, that was going to be a block. So big shout out to Nick Moore, man. I mean, hey, sometimes, a play that is a negative because, maybe it gets called, as a foul or a penalty, can be a positive. And I think that was one of those situations where if he doesn't hold that guy, maybe we are somber today, and we're not as happy as we are, because the game probably goes a little bit differently if they block that punt, recover it, maybe even score in that situation. Who knows? So shout out to Nick Moore, man. Crucial hold, clutch hold on his part.
Long snappers are people too.
Yes, sir.
Long snappers are definitely people. Did you guys have anything else you want to touch on, or can we land this thing?
Yeah, I'm good. I think we hit on everything.
Yeah, and this time for real. It's not like last week where we said we're gonna go and we had something else. No, this time we're really gonna go. This is really it. So hey, look, appreciate everybody, like I said off the top, for always listening, for tapping in with us. We've noticed more engagement, right, on the channel, on Twitter. So we appreciate that. I definitely want to shout out everybody who's been tapping in. It hasn't gone unnoticed. Continue to like and subscribe and download and share, and tweet, all your different social networks. Just spread the word, because we're going to keep doing our thing and keep trying to bring you guys good quality content and just a different perspective than we think is out there right now. It's all love. Everybody's out there doing good work, but like Andre 3000 said back at the Source Award, South got something to say. We got something to say, so we're doing our thing
Yes,
too.
sir.
But until next time, for Chris, Carrie, yours truly, y'all be good out there, and we'll get at you.
Peace.
These my daddies make it hurt.